I introduce you the Development Group CEO, Denise Grimsley.
Well, good evening. Welcome to the inaugural annual meeting of the Development Group. For the past 2 years, we've been asking the question, what will Hardee County look like in 10, 15, and 20 years? And then we stopped asking that question because we realized it wasn't the actual correct question, and we started asking ourselves, what should Hardee County look like in the next 10, 15, and 20 years? I hope each of you received an invitation for the Hardee Speaks survey through phone, mail, or text message, asking your opinion on important economic development tools like education and healthcare. At the Development Group, we are redefining what economic development looks like. Traditionally, we've only been focused on industrial development, but industrial development alone will not create sustainable jobs, not without good schools, healthcare, infrastructure, retail, other quality of life amenities, and housing. We have implemented a 6-week educational series titled Building a Vibrant Community. To date, we've graduated 5 classes. The blueprint redefines the culture in which economic development occurs, bringing new ideas to the table and connecting the dots all across Hardee County. Community building and economic development are not easy, and the results aren't often seen immediately, so it's critically important that we plan for the future. We have established a 2030 legacy plan that includes 5 pillars as we begin to plan for years to come. It takes that type of planning, and it takes a movement of the entire community to bring good ideas forward. This movement will create stability, and it will enhance our culture. Rest assured, Hardee County is being noticed around the state as the place that people want to be. Tonight, I'd like to introduce to you a 5-pillar focus of the 2030 Legacy Plan designed to achieve a vibrant community that will keep our children at home with good paying jobs after they leave high school, that we maintain the community that we know it for years to come. Our first pillar is housing. So I would ask you who are here tonight, how many of you would like to see a Publix, a Wawa, and maybe even a Dairy Queen? I imagine that it's most all of you. But what you need to know is that none of those businesses will come here until we have a formal plan for additional housing. And who knows someone who drives to Wauchula every day from another county to work, and maybe they've been doing that for 5 or 10 years. We must have additional housing to allow these employees to live in Hardee County and contribute to our tax base rather than taking their paycheck and going back home to another county every night and spending their money there. We need all types of housing, from low income to high income, and we need it quickly. We cannot afford to wait another 5 years for additional housing. Our second pillar is healthcare. So how many of you drive out of town for healthcare? I had to drive out of town this week for a doctor's appointment. The Hardee Speaks survey tells us that more specialist doctors are important to 73% of us. And 67% of us say we want a family physician that lives and works in Hardee County. In order to attract businesses to keep our residents at home, we must have a robust healthcare delivery system that not only includes physicians, but it also includes a long-term care component. Our third pillar, talent supply and education. You may or may not know the number one thing employers look for when they relocate or they start up a business in a county is, what is the talent base? They want to know if they can get high school graduates. Can they partner with the local community college or the state college? Does the high school have a robust career technical education program? Those are the questions they ask. Physicians have actually turned us down to relocate to Hardee County because our school system did not have an international baccalaureate program. And you may or may not know what that is, but it is an internationally recognized educational framework that focuses on research, communication, collaboration from a global perspective. Highlands County has one, Polk County has one. They're all around us. Until we are able to take our school system to the next level, we are going to struggle to attract physicians. Today, our high school graduation rate is declining. There are a number of reasons for this, but make no mistake about it, it starts before a child ever even enters the school system. That's why it's so important to have an excellent voluntary pre-kindergarten program, not only in the private sector, but in the public sector as well. Additionally, our kindergarten readiness rates are below state average, as are our third grade reading scores. If we don't address early learning education, our graduation rates will continue to decline, as will our talent pool for the number of jobs that we're able to create in this county and supply talent to. Our fourth pillar, transportation and infrastructure. There's been much collaboration between our office, the Board of County Commissioners, all the municipalities, Florida Department of Transportation, on improving the Highway 17 corridor from a beautification overlay zone to safety. Also, the county and the municipalities are beginning to step up their code enforcement because we learned in the Hardee Speaks survey that that's important to you. Expanding utilities and broadband are also critical. And I will tell you that Hardee County is head and shoulders above the other rural counties in our area. We are at 96% connectivity for broadband. And we have entities like Rapid Systems, Starlink, CenturyLink, and Comcast that provide us options, but fiber is what is going to give us the connectivity and the reliability, and that is what we aspire to have in our Commerce Park as well as in the county. Because when large companies looking to relocate, they need fiber. Healthcare facilities need fiber, and that is part of this pillar. On the utility side, you may or may not know this because many of this work happens underground. The city of Wauchula has 30 some odd projects in place right now with $60 million for infrastructure. Those projects are important as we begin to add housing and we begin to add businesses. And finally, our fifth pillar, recreation and tourism. This includes creating spaces where people want to be. And I will give you a few examples. 2 years ago, Rotary, Kiwanis, and Lions began a New Year's Eve gathering downtown. It's at Heritage Park. It's every New Year's Eve from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. It's family focused. It's open to the children. There is a band. Giovanni's and Main Street Plaza are kind enough to stay open until 10 o'clock to serve all of the people that come down. And it's truly a great gathering place. Coming up soon is the Watermelon Festival, May 10th, May 11th. Again, a product of Rotary. This year, they're working on RV packages that go along with the festival, so you could stay in Pioneer Park for the weekend, enjoy the concert on Friday night, and go out and see the vendors on Saturday. And downtown dining is a critical focus for us. We know that we need 7 restaurants on Main Street. And you may ask yourself, that's a lot of restaurants for a population of 27,000 people. Well, what we've learned through studying is that our market area is not Hardee County. Our market area is a 30-minute radius of Heritage Park. There are 300,000 people that live in that 30-minute radius. That's how you support 7 restaurants, and that is our goal to do. And then finally, Peace River, the natural resource that we have that we must continue to capitalize on. People are looking for serene places to go, and that is Peace River. But these are the 5 pillars, along with the building a vibrant community blueprint. Implementing the 2030 Legacy Plan and partnering with each of you is how we achieve more than the status quo. Our hope for a future Hardee County is strong and it is bright. And I invite you to join us, participate, be part of this movement, because Hardee County is the best place to live, work, and raise a family. And I truly believe that. Hardee County deserves every opportunity afforded to all other counties in the state. Ladies and gentlemen, we stand at a pivotal moment in the history of Hardee County. Together, we have a historic opportunity to shape our community's economic future for this and future generations. Now is not the time to be idle, but a time to push forward, because the lives of our children and our grandchildren depend on it. And I want to start by thanking you for being here this evening. Just by being here, you are saying you want to be part of that movement. And I would like for you to give yourself a round of applause. To inspire each of us to redefine the way we think and do business and expect results, it's my privilege tonight to introduce to you our keynote speaker. Bill Yeargin is a renowned speaker, a successful author, and the CEO of CorrectCraft. Under Bill's leadership, CorrectCraft has developed a unique culture of making life better. CorrectCraft recently purchased a business located in the Hardee County Business Park. The business is known as Mock Connections, giving Bill a direct tie to our community. His innovative leadership and emphasis on culture will inspire us to make life better in the lives of the residents of Hardee County and our businesses. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome to the stage Bill Yeargin.
It's exciting to be here with you this evening. We love Hardee County. And as you think about the economics of your county, I want to talk to you a little bit about culture and the economics of culture. You've got in the book back a book for you. It's available on your way out, Making Life Better. It's a book I wrote a couple of years ago telling the CorrectCraft story. So I'd like to just share a couple of stories out of that book that hopefully will be impactful to you. We're going to start in January of 1945. January of 1945, the world was in a mess. World War II had been going on for a few years in both the Pacific Theater and in the European Theater, and hundreds of millions of people had been displaced from their homes, tens of millions of people had been killed, and anxiety ruled the world. Everyone was scared, no matter where you were, even if you weren't part of the direct hostilities. But Hitler had overplayed his hand. If you're familiar with your history, you know that in December of 1944, Hitler had executed his last offensive, what we today call the Battle of the Bulge, and he had failed. And so now the end was certain. The Allied troops were moving across Europe and moving across very quickly, but in order to get to Berlin, there was a barrier. And there was a pretty big barrier, and it was the Rhine River. So Supreme Commander Eisenhower cables back to Washington, D.C. and said, I need boats, and I need boats fast, and I need a lot of them. So the Pentagon contacted this little company in Orlando, Florida, CorrectCraft, the company that I'm honored today to be the CEO of, and reached out to them and said, we need 425 boats, and we need the 425 boats in 25 days. Well, CorrectCraft at the time was building about 20 boats every 30 days. So this was over a 20-time increase in production in a shorter time period than it was used to building the boats. But the family that owned the company, the team said, we'll do it, we'll do our part, we'll build the 425 boats in the 25 days. So the company started building the boat, and at this time, this was during World War II, so at this time, everything centered around the war and production for the war. So they shut down the streets around the company, they built a railroad track right to the factory, and started building the boats. Everything was closed down, 24 hours a day they were working building the boats. But there was a problem. The first weekend came, and the military realized that CorrectCraft had a pretty strong value. Part of its culture was that we don't work on Sundays. And so the military came to the company and said, we know this is important to you, and we know this is part of your culture, but we need these boats, you're going to have to work on Sundays. The family said, no, we don't work on Sundays. We give Sundays to our employees as an opportunity to rest, relax, exercise, spend time with their families, worship if they choose, but we don't work on Sundays. Well, the military pressed them really hard, and I can't imagine just the courage that it took to stand up to the military here at the end of World War II. The company said, no, we're not going to work on Sundays. That's one of our values. That's a strong part of our culture. So the military eventually gave in. The company worked worked till midnight on Saturday night, took Sunday off, came back in at midnight on Monday morning and started building boats again. And they built the 425 boats a few days early. They kept the entire job done a few days early. So much so that some other companies that were building the boats during that time worked 7 days a week, couldn't get their allocation done, and the company ended up building about another 100 boats to make up for work that other companies couldn't get done. But an important part of their values, an important part of their culture was we don't work Sundays. And they stuck to their culture. They made it important. Their employees knew it was important to them. That was an important value. And so the company stuck with that. And actually today in Washington, D.C., in the Pentagon, it's in the military records as the miracle of boats. And obviously there's a lot of celebration, and the military brass came down to Orlando, congratulated everybody. Nobody thought it could be done, and it was done. So this is a company, Correct Craft, that has strong values and strong culture. Well, a decade later, near the end of the 50s, almost 1960, the company got another government contract. This government contract called for a few hundred more boats to be built for the federal government, but the government sent down an auditor, an inspector, somebody to come down and inspect the boats. And this person came down to inspect the boats, and after being there a couple of days, they came to the company and they wanted a bribe. And the company said, no, that's not one of our values. In fact, that's against our values. We don't pay bribes. That's not part of our culture. We don't do that. The inspector said, well, if you don't pay me the bribe, I'm going to fail the boats. And that's exactly what he did, because the company wouldn't pay the bribe. The bribe wasn't a lot of money in the overall scope of the contract, but it was part of their values. It's part of their culture. We don't do that. So they failed the boats. The inspector failed the boats, put the company into bankruptcy. The company went into bankruptcy and went through the whole bankruptcy process. Hopefully you've never been through that. I've made this so far in my life without that. I'm hoping to get the rest of the way without it. But the company, if you know how that works, you know your debts are discharged. So the company had to pay about 10% of the debts, and 90% of the debts were discharged. But that too wasn't part of the company's culture. The company's values and the company's culture was, we pay our bills. If we owe somebody money, we're going to pay somebody the money. So the company, and I cannot imagine this, the company spent its profits for the next 20 years. Their profits for the next 20 years, they spent paying back all that money that had been discharged in bankruptcy, even though they had absolutely no obligation to do that. And so this is what it's like. Imagine 1980, it's 20 years later. You get a knock on your door. You go to the door and somebody says, hey, your grandfather Jones, who passed away 10 years ago, he owned a little factory, or a little woodworking shop in Orlando. And that woodworking shop had sold some goods to Correct Craft, and we owed him $10,000 that we weren't able to pay him. I know he's been dead for 10 years. I know this is 20 years ago, but here's a check for your family for the $10,000 that we owe you. Because that was part of the company's culture. That was part of the values. Just like they didn't work on Sunday, just like they didn't pay bribes, we pay our bills. And we pay our bills even if it takes 20 years to pay them after being discharged in bankruptcy. The company was started in 1925 by a family that lived in New England and wanted to move down to Florida. A lot of families were doing this during the time. They were moving to Florida to start a business. They started a business in the 20s, and things went pretty well in the 20s. In the 30s, things started getting a little tough. We had the Depression, and they started doing just about anything they could to make money. They were building docks. They were dredging canals. They actually, and this is the truth, the company had a couple of guys in the company that would find dead bodies when people drowned in Central Florida. There were lakes all over Central Florida, as you know, and around the Orlando area. And at the time, I can't imagine this today, I actually live on a lake in Central Florida. At the time, living on a lake was not desirable. People said, oh, there's snakes and alligators and mosquitoes, and you don't want to do that. But people would still go in the lakes, they'd swim, and they'd drown. So the family had a business where they would swim back and forth across the lakes until they could find the body of the person drowned. So basically doing anything they could just to survive through the 30s. Got into the 40s, I just told you about the war story. The 50s and 60s was really centered around the bankruptcy. But in the early 60s, the company started a new brand called Ski Nautique. If you know anything about Correct Craft, we have a bunch of different companies and a bunch of brands. We have 46 companies within Correct Craft, but the brand people know the most is Nautique and Ski Nautique. And the company started doing well. So once the debt was paid off in the 80s, got to the 80s and the 90s, and the company was doing well, had a reputation for innovation, but ran into some problems when you got in the late 90s. As you may be familiar, if you have a family business or if you know anything about family businesses, the company got down into generation 2, generation 3, generation 4, and there just started to be a lot of conflict. And so there's a lot of conflict within the ownership of the family, and the family members actually got together and they fired the CEO of the company, who'd been the CEO for 20 years, who was a family member and also the largest shareholder. So there's just a lot of infighting among the family. They started this series of CEOs. I got there in 2006. I was the 5th CEO in 5 years. Because there was so much fighting and infighting in the family level, CEOs would come, and some of the guys ahead of me were good guys, but just couldn't deal with what was going on at the ownership and the family level. I got there in 2006, and it was a mess. It was a mess. The company was losing money. This wonderful company had a great 85-year reputation at the time, or nearly 85-year reputation, was struggling, was losing money. Nobody knew what to do. All these CEOs would come in with all different visions. So the team had been whiplashed. And when I got there at the end of 2006, absolutely nobody thought that I was going to be there for long, because they'd seen what was happening. So we started working, and as a team, we started rallying the team together and started working together. And obviously over time pulled out of that. But one of the biggest challenges we had was culture. This company that had a wonderful culture for many years, now all of a sudden was really struggling with their culture. So we made a decision. Just a few months after I was there, I decided we got to fix our culture, and one of the ways we're going to do this is we're going to go serve somewhere. And what I've come to learn over the years is that employees want to be part of something bigger than themselves. Companies in a county want to be part of something bigger than themselves. So service was an important part of the culture that we wanted to develop at Correct Craft. So just a few months after I arrived, I got 25 employees. We had about 400 or 500 at the time, and we went to Tecate, Mexico. I doubt anybody in here has been to Tecate. Maybe somebody has. Tecate is a little town about an hour southeast of Tijuana. Very, very, very poor town. And we went to Tecate, Mexico to build a house for a homeless family. So an organization, a service organization, identified a family for us. It was a family of a mother and father, and I can't remember, either 4 or 5 children, a number of children, and they were homeless. They were living on the street. So we took 25 employees, we went down to Tecate. This was July, and one thing you should know about Tecate, Mexico in July is it's very hot. So we're there for a few days. The temperature during the day when we're working is about 110 degrees. About 110 degrees. So there's no motel, there's no Marriott, Hampton, there's not even a Motel 6 in Tecate, Mexico. So we're sleeping, we had tents, but they got so full of sand, we're basically sleeping on the desert floor, the 25 of us. We took showers while we were there by taking lake water, pouring the lake water over us, getting wet, soaping up, and taking lake water and pouring it over us and getting the soap off of us. The little lot where we were building the house for this family, it was like up on a cliff, so we're walking up and down this cliff all day long. But the worst part was, the little cliff there was over the city sewage collection area. So it was really hard to breathe. So our team's going through, we're dealing with all these challenges. We're there for a few days. We build a house. Now, it's not like a house like any of you all live in, but it was a house that we built. It had 3 rooms in it, and the family was just excited. Here they'd been living on the street, and now they had a house. We gave them the keys, and there were tears all around the family, our employees. And we go back to San Diego, and we're waiting for our plane to go back, bring us back to Orlando. And we're sitting around a room, the 25 people, they're like in a U, and we're sitting and we're just talking, waiting for our plane or waiting for something. We were sitting in this room, And I decided I wanted to ask people what they thought. So I told everybody, I said, listen, I know not everybody's comfortable, speaking, but just if everybody just take 30 seconds and tell me about your experience this week. Now, keep in mind everything we just been through, right? We're now back in San Diego. We have air conditioning and toilets and running water. And we go around and people say, and I wish I'd recorded this. If I'd known, I would have definitely done that, but I didn't. And people said things like, I'm not exaggerating, best few days of my life. I have never done anything so impactful. I can't wait to serve like this again. And it was a turning point. This company had been through 5 CEOs in 5 years, was losing money, was having all kinds of quality problems with our product, and just every challenge you can imagine. It was a turning point because that was the moment, even though there were only 25 out of 400 or 500 of us there, that all of a sudden everybody got on board and realized, hey, we're going to do something. We're going to use our platform for good. And we're going to have an impact. After that, the company started turning around. And by the way, the people that didn't go, they all heard about the story, right? And they all heard about best few days of my life. And it started something that's been really important for our company. The last 17 years, I've taken employees to Cambodia, India, Ethiopia, Kenya, Uganda, all across the Caribbean. I think every Central American country other than Panama. And we've gone and done the same kind of work. And that drives our culture at CorrectCraft because we want to be a company that makes life better. We want to have a culture of service. And if you run a company or you own a company, your employees want to be part of something bigger than themselves. They want to be part of something more than just coming in and getting a paycheck and working. They want to be part of something that energizes them. And it's had a huge impact on our company. We got back from that trip. We started rebuilding our company, and we grew. In 2009, we were about $39 million company, and last year we bumped up over $1 billion. So over 27 times growth in the last 17 years. Tremendous, tremendous growth. We've grown. You can see this is us. In 2006, 2007, we went on that service trip. We were that one box, Nautique. Now we have boxes all over the country, and we distributed into about 70 countries around the world. We're very proud. See on the bottom there, it says Mock Connections. That's our facility here in Hardee County, so we're very proud of that. And when people ask me, they say, because a lot of people in the industry and the community know our story, and they know how the company has grown, and they know about the culture of our company. They say, how does this happen? How does this even happen? I tell them it's 2 things. One is we've got a great strategic planning process. That's for another time. That's not for today. But the real driver of our results is culture, and making culture important at our organization. And it's had a huge impact. As I said, people want to be something bigger, part of something bigger than themselves. So we've grown tremendously. We're based out of Orlando here, but as I said, we're all over the world, and really excited about our growth. So there's another book back there for you, if you'd like. It's called Education of a CEO. In this book, I tell the story of all the lessons that we learned along the way. And there were a lot of lessons that we learned along the way. And so if you want to learn those lessons by reading a book instead of having to experience them, this is the book for you. So the book is laid out into really 3 sections. One is what we call the foundation. The second is people, and then third is leading. I'm not going to go through and talk about each of these chapters for sake of time, but I'll just give you a couple of highlights. The first one is chapter 1, we talk about the idea of being a learner. One of the things that we really is something somebody says every day in a meeting that I'm in. I've got a little bracelet here that says be a learner. One of the things that's really an important part of our culture is be a learner. We talk about 2 kinds of people, learners and knowers. Probably you guys look like a really smart crowd, so I imagine you're mostly learners, but about 80-90% of people are knowers. They're not learners. And learners is more than just reading a book or taking a class. Learners is being a learner or knower depends on how you take in information. You see, learners take in information, to grow, to learn, to have their mind changed. Knowers take in information, now get this, knowers take in information to validate what they already believe. Okay, it's a big, big, big difference. And this one point alone will change your life. If you can be a learner, and we ask our over 2,000 employees to be learners, we want to take in information not to just validate what we already think, we want to take in information to learn. Learners love having their mind changed. There's actually a bit of an endorphin rush. See, most people go through life and they take in information, they're trying to validate what they already believe. If somebody changes their mind, it feels like a failure to them. If you're a learner and you have your mind changed, it's like, woo, yes. It's exciting. Because I've learned something. This is new. And so, and this alone, this will change your organization. This will change you personally. Because as I said, you know, and listen, I'm the least judgmental person you ever meet. I don't want to judge anybody on anything. It's not my role in life. I have no desire to do that. But my observation is that most people are knowers. And if you get this piece about being a learner, this will really have a big impact on you. You know, several other chapters, feedback. You know, we talk about at our organization, we want people to be highly assertive, highly cooperative. It's what we sometimes call no silent liars. We want everybody in our organization to speak up. You know, we've got over 2,000 employees. You know, every one of them has an incredibly complex brain that there's no computer that's that powerful. And so why would you not take advantage of all that brain power, right? So we want people to speak up. We call it no silent liars. So if you're in a meeting with me, the CEO, and I say something that you think is the dumbest thing you've ever heard, which I'm likely to do, we want you to say, hopefully respectfully and politely, but speak up and say, hey Bill, have you thought about it this way? Hey Bill, I see that a little differently. We want people to speak back. But to make that work, you've really got to embrace feedback. I've written a lot of articles, and a few months ago I wrote an article, I sent it to a friend of mine in Charlotte, and I wanted his opinion of it. So I sent him the article. He didn't realize that I had written it. He thought I was sending it to him to get opinion on what somebody else had written. So we'll call him Dan, because that's actually his name, Dan. So Dan sends me back an email, just sort of like tears up the article. You know, all the things that he sees wrong with it. And so I could tell he didn't think I'd written it, so I emailed him right back, said, hey Dan, by the way, I wrote that, but thanks for the comments. And he, like within 3 seconds, my phone's ringing. I look down, there's Dan. I call him. Bill, I am so sorry. I am so sorry. I did not know that you had written that. I said, Dan, you gave me a wonderful gift. You gave me a wonderful gift because you've helped make this so much better by being willing to give me good feedback. But the problem is, we all want feedback, but the reality is we want feedback that we're doing a good job. We want people to tell us, oh yeah, great job. We don't want feedback that says, oh, that's not so good. But embracing feedback is an important part of that. Being able to cast a vision, looking out ahead. I loved what Denise shared with the pillars and the vision for Hardee County here. That's part of being successful. Being able to cast a vision. You know, what are we going to go tackle? You know, years ago, I remember reading a book about Jack Nicklaus. Jack Nicklaus, you all know who he is, professional golfer, and played professionally many years, but he was arguably the best golfer ever. He attributed his success to visualization. And in this book, he said, before I took every shot, I would picture myself swinging, hitting the ball, and exactly where the ball would go. And he attributed a big part of his success to that. And as leaders, having a vision, looking out ahead, visualizing where we want to go, that's a big part of our success. Mindset. I'm actually not going to go through all these chapters, but there's some here at the beginning that are important. Mindset. I've come to believe the number one thing that holds people back from achieving their potential is their mindset and how they think. You see, most people believe if they don't achieve their potential or they have a hard time in life, they blame it on their parents or their school or boss or their spouse, or they blame it on somebody other than themselves. But that's not what holds people back. What holds people back is themselves and how they think. And the people that choose to see obstacles as opportunities do so much better in life. There's a great concept called the obstacle is the way, and it flows out of Stoicism in a book that was written by Marcus Aurelius centuries ago. Marcus Aurelius was a Roman emperor, and he wrote this book, and he actually didn't intend to write a book. It was his personal diary, and about 100 years after he had died, this diary was published, to the degree you published things 1,500 years ago, and now it's a classic book that many people have read. And in the book, Marcus Aurelius shares a concept, and he said the obstacle is the way. And what that means is that most people come up to an obstacle and they say, oh, okay, that's too tough. And they turn around and go the other way or walk off. The people that are really successful, the people that do really well, the organizations that do really well, see that obstacle and say, most people are going to walk off. I'm going to find out how to use this to my advantage. So the obstacle's the way. So you're in Hardee County, right? Maybe there's some things that you see as obstacles for Hardee County to really reach its potential. The key for you all as leaders of the county is say, the obstacle's the way. How are we going to turn all this into a huge advantage for us and achieve what no one thinks we can achieve? It all comes back to mindset. So mindset, very important. Integrity, hopefully goes without saying. Eye for talent. We talk about often at our company this concept of who, not how. If you've got a problem at your organization, if you have a problem in your county, if you have a problem in any part of your life, and you think, I don't know how to fix this, very rarely is the solution in how. The solution is in who. Who's going to help you fix it? Who's going to do that? And so what I found over the years, and Shane, who's the president of one of our companies, Starflight, is here. Shane, Mock Connections, reports up to him. Having people like Shane, having the right who's on your team, having the right who's around you, everything else gets easier. If you've got something in your organization you've been struggling with and you can't figure it out, don't think how, think who. You get the right people on board, you get the right people around you, everything else takes care of itself. Energy is, as leaders, we should provide energy to our team, provide clarity. Chapter 9, I talk about clarity. In this story, I tell the story about some bears up in my yard. Some people find it funny, and some people ask me, is that story true? And when you read the chapter, yes, that story is true. But as leaders, it's our job to provide a lot of clarity. And having like your 5 pillars here that you have for the county, that helps provide clarity. And so, once you have clarity and you get the right who's, all of a sudden stuff just starts getting done. And like what Denise showed earlier with the 5 pillars, there's clarity. What do we need to do? Where do we need to go? The question is, are you going to be one of the who's or not? Are you going to be the who that's going to make this happen? Or are you just going to sort of sit at the sideline and say somebody else will do that? Or we can get somebody else to do that. So, Hardee County's got a lot of potential. I encourage you to be one of the who's. Employee development. We've invested millions and millions of dollars in our employees at Correct Craft. We have Correct Craft University. We've got oh wait, it gets better. I promise it'll get better. Wait, okay, I'll step it up. We invest a lot in our team and employee development, and a lot of people have a hard time seeing that or understanding. They say, and you know what most people say when they don't want to invest in their people like they should? They say, I'm afraid that I'm going to invest them. I'm going to help them get that degree. I'm going to help them get that certification. I'm going to pay for that class, and they're going to leave. That's what most people think. And I say often, this isn't original to me, but I say often, it's better to invest in your people and have them leave than it is not to invest in your people and have them stay. And that's you get a reminder on that concept, it'll change the way you think about investing in your team. And there's nothing we can do at CorrectCraft. You know, as CEO of a $1 billion company, one of my most important jobs is capital allocation. I need to make sure we're investing our capital right. There is nothing that I can invest in better that has a higher return than our people. I have projects come to me all the time from factories around the country. Hey, we want to do this extension. We want to buy this new piece of equipment. And by the time it's gotten to me, it's usually pretty well vetted so I can approve it. But there's nothing that we can invest in better than investing in our people that have a higher return. Leading, investing in culture, you know, that's what we're talking about. Being future focused, thinking about innovation, you know, looking out to the future. You'll be looking out to the future. And if you can cast a vision for your organization of the future, and that includes service, that includes helping your community, for your team, people rally around that. I mean, I've seen it over and over again my whole career. People want to be part of something big. They want to achieve something big. And so if you can cast that vision and, you know, it's big and it energizes people and people want to be part of something like that. So that's just a mountain, not even more than higher than a mountaintop, just sort of touching on some peaks related to the book. I hope you enjoy the book. I'd love to hear, you know, what you think after you have a chance to read it. But that's sort of our story. So let me wrap this up with a couple more thoughts here. You know, we talk a lot about culture and the importance in culture. And people say to me, they say, well, Bill, if culture is so powerful, why doesn't everybody do it? Why don't everybody do that? And the reason people don't do that is because they see it as an expense. They say, okay, wow, I take people to Ethiopia, that's going to cost me a lot of money. And yes, it's going to cost you a lot of money. And I'm not saying you got to take anybody to Ethiopia. There's a ton of projects right here in this community. Our Mock Connections team here in town, they do multiple community projects right here in Hardee County every year. And multiple projects. There's plenty of opportunities, you know, locally. But people say, well, it costs money. And some things do cost money. But the reason that people don't do it is they see culture as an expense. And I'm telling you, with as straight as I can be with you, I've experienced this, I've lived this. Investing in culture is not an expense, it's an investment with a huge, huge return. Regardless of how your accountants decide to treat it on your monthly financial statements, your mind, if you get your mind around this, if you just embrace, there's nothing I can invest money in that's going to get me a higher return than culture, my employees, and employee development. You get your mind around that, that'll change your thinking, that'll change your organization, that'll change your calendar. So, how do you drive a culture? Number one, identify what's important. Number two, figure out a clear way to communicate it. Number three, communicate it over and over and over and over again. This is our culture pyramid. You don't have time to go into it. I discuss it in both of the books. You'll read about that. You communicate it over and over and over and over again. You talk about culture and your values until you're tired of talking about it and they're tired of hearing it. And then you talk about it some more. Talk about your culture over and over, and then you model it. Because people, if you're a leader in an organization, your people will always, 100% of the time, pay more attention to what you do than what you say. So if I'm the CEO of CorrectCraft and I don't live out our culture, it goes nowhere. The life of the organization flows out of the life of the leader. So if you're the leader of the organization, you got to embrace the culture, you got to communicate it, and you've got to model it over and over again. That's how you do culture, right there. That's it. It's that simple. Do those four things, you can drive culture in your organization, and you can have a big impact. What about the naysayers? So, one of the comments that I get often is, well, my team's not going to buy into that. I'm going to have people that are just going to be really negative for that. I'm not going to be able to, I just could never convince my team to be part of this. And that's true. You probably got people that are going to be, a little challenging with it. This is how you deal with that, okay? And you get this down too, this will make it so much easier. Anybody know who this guy is? It's Peter Diamandis. He's a famous author, writer, management guru. He's written a lot of books like Ideal Team Player, 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, The Motive. If you haven't read any of his stuff, really, really good writer. So I'm at Craft just a few months, and I get on a plane. I'm in Orlando. I'm flying out to Salt Lake City, and I'm reading one of Peter Diamandis' books. And who sits down next to me? But him. Now, Peter Diamandis, you got to understand, he gives like 1-hour speeches. He gets like $200,000 for one speech. I think, I got to check with Denise, I think I'm only getting like half of that. But he gets like $200,000 per hour, and I got this guy for 3 hours sitting next to me. Now, I wasn't going to be rude or, I wasn't going to like infringe on his time if he wasn't interested, but he seemed genuinely interested. He told me reading the book, was asking what I was doing. I was telling him about some of the challenges I was having at Craft, those early days. And he said this to me, and it had a big impact and really changed my thinking, had a big impact on our organization. He said, Bill, as I said, at the time we had 400 or 500 employees. He said, Bill, about a third of your employees are on your side. They want to see you succeed. They want to buy in. They're all in. About a third of your employees are in the middle, and they're just sort of watching to see what happens. And about a third of your employees are the, well, we don't do it that way crowd. The third of your employees are going to be negative. He said, this is the mistake you're making. And he was right. He was very intuitive. He picked up. He said, the third over here, the third of the we don't do it that way crowd, you're investing a tremendous amount of energy trying to convince them that the culture that you want at Craft is going to be good for everybody. You're trying to change their mind. He said, stop. Don't do that. He said, the third that are on your side, spend all your energy on them. Reinforce them, work with them, try to develop a culture. He said, what will happen? And this is exactly what happened. The third in the middle, they see that, they'll come on board. Once they realize that, hey, you're going to be here for a while, this is important, they want to be part of the team, they want to be on board. The third that's in the middle will come on board. The third that are the naysayers, that we don't do it that way, he said about half of them will leave, and about half of them will come on board. And that's exactly what happened. So don't worry about the naysayers at your company. Focus on the people who are on your side, who are supporting that. Let the naysayers leave if they want to leave, or hopefully they'll eventually come on board. But focus on the people that are on your side. So, we're ready to wrap this up. This is Milton Friedman. And Milton Friedman, some of you may know, was probably the most influential, or certainly one of the top 2 or 3 most influential economists of the 20th century. Milton Friedman, he won the Nobel Prize for economics, and just was really, really well known. But he got himself into some trouble because in the 1970s, he wrote an article about what's called shareholder primacy. And actually, the idea wasn't original to him. The idea actually flowed out of a Supreme Court ruling from the 1920s. But he wrote this article, and he said an organization's #1 responsibility is to provide profit to the shareholders. That's it. They provide profit to the shareholders. They don't worry about anything else. They just take care of the shareholders. And he said and since then, a lot of people have debated this. A lot of people have said that's not right. In fact, the Business Roundtable, if you're familiar with them, it's a group of probably the 100 largest organizations in the United States. Just a couple of years ago, they had a document that they issued that said this wasn't right. That we can't just focus on the shareholders. But if you will, play along with me for a second, and let's assume he is right. Let's say our job is to just make money for the owners. My argument in the economics of culture is the best way to get financial results for your organization is to have a great culture and invest in your community and invest in your people. Remember? If you want to make money, you want to get a high return on your investment. What I say was no way to get a higher return than in culture. So if you do all the things that I'm talking about, you invest in your community, you invest in your team, you have a culture of service. I can't overemphasize the culture of service because people want to be, as I said, a part of something bigger than them. It actually makes you money. That actually gets you good financial results. There's a book written about this called The Economics of Higher Purpose, and they talk about this concept. And this is what their conclusion is. This is what their conclusion is. Their conclusion was that great culture drives great financial results. Unless you develop the culture to get the financial results. Okay, think about that for a second. Great culture provides great financial results, but if you're just doing all the culture to get the financial results, it doesn't work because people see through that. And then you know you're just being manipulative. So, but if you really care about your people, if you care about your customer, if you care about people you come in contact with, if you care about your community, I believe you all do, just by virtue of the fact that you're here this evening, and it's genuine, and you can invest in that stuff, that doesn't cost you. That actually provides a great return and makes your business more solid and better off. So that's really my message is, when we think about culture, we think about the economics of culture. It has a huge impact in every area. It has a huge impact on your team. It has a huge impact on your community. And you get great financial results from it too. So in the back, there's 2 books, 2 tables of books. I encourage you to take one of each. That's just our gift to you guys tonight. And I appreciate the opportunity to be here. If you want to stay in touch, we talk about this stuff all the time. And you can reach out. You can go to our Craft website. We're on LinkedIn. I'm personally on LinkedIn. Would love to stay in touch with you if you're interested in doing that. And thank you very much.
Well, Bill, thank you so much for your words of wisdom. As I was telling you backstage, I thoroughly enjoyed reading your book, Education of the CEO. And I told him he might have stepped on my toes a couple of times. But as a learner and not a knower, I value that input and that feedback. And we aspire as well to become learners. And that's what we try to achieve through our 6-week Building a Vibrant Community series. So your talk is very timely, and at this time, one of the things that we really enjoy in our community is our relationships with not only the public sector, but the private sector. The county works very well with us. Fred Hawkins, who is the new CEO of the president of South Florida State Colleges here, and we've thoroughly enjoyed having him interact and talking about how we can achieve excellence with our employees and with the employees of the employers that are in our business park. And we have a CEO support group that he was part of last month and you'll be part of tomorrow. And just the feedback into making us better and aspire to be better and achieve that excellence. And at this time, I'd like to invite onto the stage Mr. Terry Ashley, who is the county manager for Hardee County.
To take part in this very important conversation, and Bill, a special thanks to you for taking time from your extremely busy schedule to be here tonight to share with us some of your wisdom and thought-provoking information that you've shared with us tonight. But ladies and gentlemen, whether you're here tonight representing our local business community, a nonprofit organization, our education system, one of our amazing local government agencies, or a concerned citizen that just wants to be engaged, we have one thing to tell you tonight. We are one community that must be united for us to move forward. So tonight we hope when you leave understanding that we have amazing opportunities ahead of us as we continue to propel ourselves on into the future. It is the most exciting time to be able to say, I live in Hardee County, whether it's Wauchula, Bowling Green, Saco, or the It is an exciting time to live here. You know, Denise, it's going to take each and every one of us working collectively together to be able to create the culture that we know will provide prosperity and sustainability for Hardee County as a whole. As Bill has pointed out in his presentation, we know that we must identify what is important, what are our priorities, and we must remain engaged in those priorities. So as we continue to move forward, we have continued to build new tools. For example, Denise, you have shared tonight and demonstrated the 5 pillars that the development group has adopted as the tools to use for economic development as we move into the future. So we have to be prepared. We cannot wait on the sidelines saying, don't worry, someone else will do it. Well, guess what? We're excited tonight because someone else is sitting out here in the audience tonight. We've got a lot of troops in this room tonight that are interested in something, or I do not believe you would be here. So as we continue to move forward, we have to build this culture. We all have to do this united and together to be able to achieve the goals and successes that we want for Hardee County as a whole. So ladies and gentlemen, I could stand here, I get really excited about this. They told me I had 2 hours. That's what I said too. But we know we got a lot of other stuff that we need to get to tonight. So right now I'm going to stop. I'd like to ask Mr. Bill if you have any additional closing thoughts or comments you'd like to share with us this evening.
No, just 2 things. Think big. And remember, it's who, not how. You're the who. You need the who's to step up. One thing else that might be helpful to you is that sort of a little bit of a mind hack that we do that we find really helpful is when we try to think big, we think in terms of we've already done it. Like when we do some of our strategic planning at our companies, we think, okay, in fact, I'll even create a sort of fake USA Today article and say, Mock Connections has done this and this, and and then we ask the team, how was it done? Because sometimes it's a lot easier to think how we did it than to think how we're going to do it. So just that might help you. But the 2 big things I would say is think really big. Don't sell yourself short. You know, people tend to overestimate what they can do 1 year and then underestimate what they can do in 5 years. Think really big and who, not how. You guys are the who.
Thank you, Bill. Appreciate that very much. And as the 5 pillars were described to you tonight, it is exciting to also tell you that these pillars align with the vision and mission of the recently created and adopted Hardee County Board of County Commissioners' own strategic plan. We have to work in harmony. We have to be headed in the same direction. But we must remember, long-term planning for success always has been, always will be, a work in progress. What does that mean? That means that engagement is a key initiative of being able to achieve our goals and objectives. We have to be there in engagement. So ladies and gentlemen, it has been our honor to be here with you tonight, and we got a lot of opportunity, but engagement. Remember that word, and I think we're going to say it one more time, engagement. We need you. So, Ms. Denise, how could they get engaged right now if they wanted to?
Well, I'm glad you asked, Terry, because we actually have an opportunity coming up beginning April 29th, 5 to 7 p.m. It's a Monday evening, 6-week series, Building a Vibrant Community. This will be class number 6. We invite you to come. If you are an alumni of a previous graduating class, you are always welcome to join. But be expecting a call from us in the next 30 days talking about how you can continue to be involved. Tonight, I invite you over to the depot where we'll have some heavy hors d'oeuvres. You'll have a chance to mingle with Mr. Yeargin and speak with him and learn something from him and just pick his brain about different things, especially in the county. But one thing I want you to remember, ladies and gentlemen, when you leave here tonight and you walk across, you'll have a police escort to get you across the road. One thing I want you to leave here with tonight, I want you to remember one thing, and I want you to say it, and if you're a social media poster, do the hashtag, and that is, we are Hardee. And I'd like for you to say that for me, please. We are Hardee. Thank you so much for being here this evening, and thank you for supporting us. And one more time, okay?
We do want to issue the challenge tonight. We want you to think about accepting our challenge. What is the challenge? Be engaged. If you're not engaged, get engaged. If you are engaged, stay engaged. We need you. We need every one of you in this room and everyone else you can bring to the table. Hardee County, as Ms. Grimsley's art is on the precipice of great things happening, but we have got to work together to push it on over the edge. Mr. Bill, we certainly appreciate you again. We want to say thank you for being here and bringing your insight and wisdom, and we do look forward to having an opportunity to talk more with you at the reception.
Terry, one more thing. You spoke about getting engaged. One of the things that we learned through our Building a Vibrant Community series, we produced a new applicant or a new member of your Planning and Zoning Board. We've had 3 applicants to the Hardee County Housing Authority, and I would ask you, be involved. We don't expect you to be involved in everything, just one thing. Maybe as a member of the Rotary Club, the Kiwanis, the Lions, the Chamber. Maybe it's being part of Main Street Wauchula. But there are multiple opportunities to serve, and because at the end of the day, it's about creating a city and a county that we can be proud to pass on to our children. Thank you again for being here, and we are Hardee.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Please grab a book as you